Hi.
I'm sorry, my hair. I gotta fix it. God, one sec. Hi, I'm
Cool.
Jacob, by the way.
Hi, Jacob. I'm Pascal.
Nice to meet you. Remy's
Very nice to
spoken
meet
highly of you.
you. Oh, that's great to hear. Remy, you want to start it off or?
Sure. I mean, we've never actually put you on our channel. So you should really introduce yourself and tell us your name, who you are, your
Oh
nameless.
boy. Okay. Oh, okay. So this is gonna be my intro to the channel and shit like
It
that.
is. I think it is. Yeah.
This is like everything I dreamed about when I first started my channel and stuff. It's like it's all led up to this. Um, Hi, so I'm Jacob, also known as the Nameless Narcissist. I am diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, and I make content on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that regarding my disorder and what it's like to live with it. You might not have a great grasp on what it's like actually having narcissistic personality disorder, and so I try to shed some light on that because, frankly, a lot of stuff on the internet right now isn't super accurate to the lived experience. Of course, the descriptions of some of the behaviors can be very accurate, but why we do it is very misunderstood. And I think it's valuable for everybody to have a better understanding of the mental states of other people that they can't relate to as well. Right. I got interested in personality disorders because my sister has borderline personality disorder, and growing up, I was baffled by it. And that was probably compounded by the fact that I had narcissistic personality disorder that I was kind of refusing to acknowledge. But once I did research into that and then started researching my own, I realized how there was such a disconnect between the lived experience of me, my sister, my parents, my friends, and stuff like that. It was overwhelming almost to understand how we all just thought in completely different ways, and honestly, ironically, didn't have empathy for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hoping that my presence here can kind of help bridge that gap a little bit. All right, cut.
How did you come to the diagnosis? Like you had issues like when you were younger, or when did that happen?
So I was actually diagnosed the first time. I don't know if I was officially diagnosed, but it was first brought up when I was 15 or something like that. Because I had a very violent episode in my like childhood that basically I was forced into therapy again. I say again because there was some court mandated therapy before and after. My family's a mess. is the takeaway from that. But I was for I was forced into therapy, and during that time, after that episode, they were like, "Hey, you might be developing narcissistic personality disorder." And at the time, I was like, what do you know, shrink? Get out of here. Um, and so I just didn't pay it much mind for years. Following that, I went to therapy when I was in college because my friends were like concerned about me, as they should be. I can be insane. Um, it's actually funny because I remember I went to this therapist and I went there for a few sessions, and I just remember I was so withholding that she was just like, "Why are you even here?" Like she literally said that to me. She was like, "I don't know what you want out of this." And I just stopped going after that because I was like, okay, yeah, fair enough. And it took a few more years that I messed up some close relationships because I kind of sabotaged a romantic relationship that I had by having an emotional affair with a woman who was very much not a positive influence on my life, or I should say, wasn't a positive influence in my life. And to impress that woman, I went into therapy, basically like, look how healthy I am. I'm working on myself. But once that ended, I was like, why did I do that? That was kind of bizarre. So I stayed in. Um, and then it took 2 years for me to actually be diagnosed. Like, because basically, again, I'm very withholding. Like, well, I was at least. Nowadays, obviously, my entire life is on the internet. But I was very withholding, so I never said my like true thoughts. Like, I had an idea of what to say that was healthy, and I remember the moment that like she kind of like was like, oh, I think I know what's going on here. Was basically I was complaining about some of my friends because that's what I would go in and bitch for an hour and then leave. But I remember just like sitting back in like the therapist chair and just like just like chuckling to myself. And she's like, what? And I said, well, I can't blame them for not understanding me. I mean, they're also fucking stupid. And like, she was like, what? And I said, and I was like, I mean, look at them and look at me. They all complain that I think that I'm better than them. But I mean, come on. Like, can we be realistic here? And like, I just went on this grandiose tirade. And she was like, well, I'm humbled that you would share that with me. And I look at her and I say, are you mocking me? And yeah, very quickly diagnosed after that. And like, also, like, I don't want to like make it seem like my therapist is incompetent or anything, because she's very good at what she does. It's just that not many therapists have, you know, a good understanding of personality disorders or anything like that. So I don't blame her for not seeing it faster than she did, since it was always in the back of my head of like, oh, I'm pretty narcissistic. I got to hide that because people don't like narcissists, or narcissistic behavior, more accurately. I was very like cognizant that I had to hide it.
Wait, so how long ago was that? And you're still with this therapist?
Basically, I've stopped going for her for a while now because I've been trying to find a new therapist because she's very trauma focused therapist, which I think is very helpful for people with personality disorders. But for me, I feel like I need a more specialized approach to my like issues.
Mm-hmm. What would you say are the issues you would want pinpointed right now? What are you looking for?
So there's this one study that I read once that I do think illustrates kind of what I find to be the main issue with NPD and what I struggle with. In the study, they basically had like around 50 people with NPD go through treatment over a course of 2 years and see what symptoms went into remission and which ones didn't. The least likely one to go into remission was the need for admiration and approval. And that's the thing that I find myself struggling with the most, and and actually in my relationship has caused the most issues. I prioritize that need for admiration and attention and my reputation over basically anything, because it's the only thing that makes me feel like okay about myself, even if for a second. It's not lasting, but it's the only thing that like gives me drive. And when I'm not getting that, I can fall into like pretty deep depressions. And so I would say that that's probably the primary thing that I'd be looking for help with when it comes to finding a new therapist. Aside from that, I don't feel like I have issues, obviously. I have like anxiety and stuff and like mood swings and anger. I guess anger would be another thing that I would want to address better. But that's the thing that really just sticks out to me, that I am always consciously, and also feeling like nothing I do is ever good enough. That too. But yeah, I would say those are the main things that like actually impair my life.
Are there things that you know that like have gone into remission already, or is there like a list of kind of traits that you have seen improve over the years since you got the diagnosis?
That's actually a good question. I would say my imposter syndrome that I have has gone down a lot, that like I'm a lot more comfortable with like, oh, this is who I am and stuff like that. I still feel fake a lot, but it's not nearly as pervasive.
Can you just describe what it means that you don't feel it so much now? Can you give an example today of how you experience the world in a way where you're not feeling like an imposter?
Okay, so I would say that like, especially when I first started my YouTube channel, when it comes to NPD, because this is one of the more like latent examples, is that I would always think like, what if I'm not a narcissist and I'm lying to everybody and they find out I'm a fraud and stupid and stuff like that? Or like whenever I'm proud of literally anything, I will often feel like, oh, well, I'm faking this. Like, this is not like actually who I am. And even to my personality in general, like I'll be at like a party or something and people will think like I'm so cool. And I'm like, oh, I just tricked all of them. Look at me, which I at one like which goes between like me taking pride in being able to trick people into thinking that I'm cool and then like the shame in it. It goes back and forth. And nowadays I'm still very insecure, don't get me wrong, but I feel a lot more in tune with a lot of my personality traits. I would say that I still feel fake as a person, if that makes sense. I still feel like I'm like a construct. That one's always very hard to describe. But when it comes to like my actual material achievements, I'm much more comfortable with that and being able to like talk about them in a way that doesn't feel fraudulent. Um, it's a weird thing to describe.
Mm-hmm.
Can we complete the list of things that you think have improved?
Yes.
I think you were going to say entitlement, and then
Yes, I am so sorry. I have ADHD too. I go on tangents. Speaking of,
No, I drove us there. I drove us there.
But yeah, entitlement. So I've never like really loved the how entitlement is traditionally portrayed. And this might just be a cultural thing, which I thought about a lot because I'm from the Midwest and we're polite here. Or at least we try to be. That stereotypical example of, oh, a narcissist will like cut in line because they feel like they're entitled to like do so. I've never related to that because I would look at somebody like that and be like, I would be judging that person for that. It doesn't resonate at all. But I'm very entitled when it comes to my interpersonal relationships. Like, for example, my car battery died, right? And I called my friend basically being like, hey, my car battery died. Can you come here and jump it? And they're like, yeah, sure. After I finish my like errands that I'm doing. And I like got angry because I was like, I would do this for you. Why aren't you coming here right now and like tending to me? Or in my romantic relationship, I will like, to me, like the bare minimum feels like huge concessions. And so then when I'm not like getting concessions in return, I'm thinking, I'm making these concessions for you. So why aren't you doing this for me? Like, this is like, you are mistreating me in this way. Extreme loyalty too. It's like, oh, I have a falling out with somebody and like I expect all my friends to cut them off or something. So I've seen big improvements with those. My arrogant see, this is another big thing is that like there's a lot of these symptoms that I'm thinking of being like, okay, I can put them under way better. Like I'm not showing them and they're not impacting my relationships. But I still feel them, so it's hard to say if they're truly in remission. Lack of empathy is basically stayed the same. Let me think. What are the envy has again? I've internalized that one a lot more. Then there's grandiose and self-importance. That hasn't gone. And I'm not sure if that one hasn't gone away because just because of a lack of effective treatment or because I have like social media platforms that people that like is kind of important now, like, so interpersonal exploitation. That's probably one that has like gone down the most. And like, I'll fight with myself on it sometimes because I'll be like, oh, I definitely could. I mean, I still do sometimes engage in interpersonal relationships for the purpose of self-esteem regulation. So I wouldn't say it went away completely, but there are a lot of times that like I do feel an urge to like be advantageous or act advantageously. That I do fight myself on. I'm like, nah, I'm not going to do that because I want to be a good person. I think those are the main ones I can think of that I've seen actual like concrete improvement on. And I guess I return to empathy. I would say I'm much better at like I don't feel emotional empathy. Like, and I'm still not even sure that even exists. If I'm being honest. I am definitely better at like understanding, okay, this person's going through something right now. I need to be there for them. I'm now very good at doing that. But yeah, those are the main ones I would say.
So like your cognitive empathy has improved a lot.
See, dude, I could go on a whole tangent about this because it's a like I'm sure both of you have heard that like, oh, narcissists have good cognitive empathy and bad emotional empathy.
Yeah.
I think that's bullshit. I think we have horrible of both. Because
Mhm.
growing up, I thought everyone was acting for the same reason I was, just they were too stupid to realize it or not self-aware enough and stuff like that. So I will say my cognitive empathy has improved, but like I still have like these, I guess, feelings of oh, or maybe even paranoia, just being like they're doing this for the same reason I would, and I'm constantly assuming that, and like
You're assuming people are doing things for the same reason you are, so you're not imagining they have a different mind.
yeah, like exactly. Like as I said earlier, I'm not even sure emotional empathy exists. Guys, I'm like because it's so. I'm like, it feels foreign. It really does.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, how are these things? These are very relationship like issues. How are they affecting you say you're in a romantic relationship. Can you tell us a little about that then?
Yeah. So my partner has antisocial personality disorder. And in a lot of ways, we do relate to each other. However, I don't know how much I want to talk about it because I'm not sure how much of it is my disorder and how much of it is her disorder. And obviously, me and her shouldn't be looking at it through the lens of our disorder. Like you know, at the end of the day, we're both individual people that we should be focusing on our own individual traits, not the relationship through the lens of a disorder. But also, there's times that like that I feel like I do take the blame, and I'm like, I'm not sure how much of this was actually me and how much of her disorder was disorder in her own perceptions.
Hmm.
And I can't speak confidently on how I act honestly impacts the relationship just because I'm really not sure. Uh, when it comes to like my previous relationships, though, that were people that either weren't disordered or had, you know, various other disorders that like didn't affect perception as much. A lot of the times it came down to I made them feel very unseen, very unheard, replaceable because I had a lot of hesitancy in showing real affection or vulnerability. And they thought that they just didn't mean anything to me. And they did. They definitely did. But because I didn't want to bring myself to that point of being willing to show it, they took that as it made them feel worthless. I always say that I unintentionally make people feel the same way I do.
Mm.
My only family member that I think might have also been a narcissist is my grandpa. And I remember him telling my mom how like she was like complaining about like not feeling needed and stuff like that or whatever or appreciated. I don't remember what exactly she phrased it, but like I remember him just saying, that's just not me. And I kind of feel the same way. And it's not me, but I'm definitely trying on that front. But it's just like very confusing to understand what people need to feel like valued, I guess.
But the first thing that you brought up was kind of like how it's causing an issue in your relationship that you need lots of validation, right? And
Yeah.
that you need to feel sort of like, I don't know, needed or wanted
Mm.
or, but you're
When
saying she's also struggling kind of with the same thing.
the issue wasn't that I didn't feel validated from her, it's that I will prioritize other people's validation
Oh, other
and
people's.
collective I need everybody to
Uh,
like me, and then that will be me neglecting the relationship.
so it's not from her. It's not from your partner. It's from like everybody else.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay. So I
Which
misunderstood
is
that.
something that like I don't know like it how common it is like for a narcissist to like prioritize the affirmation of literally everybody over like their partner because like you hear all the time people talk narcissists need their supply and that's their relationships. For me,
Yeah.
it's never been like that. I've always been very dismissive towards my partners and it's always been kind of like, oh, this is somebody that like is going to elicit more approval towards me from other people.
Oh,
And like, again, that's not the only thing, obviously, but like when it comes to self-esteem stuff, that's usually what it is. I can only think of 2 times in my life where I felt insecure in my relationships. And in both of those, it was like they were they were like planning on leaving me during those times. And like, but other than that, like I'm just like not even a jealous guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, want to go with your guy friends to a bar? Yo, go have fun. I don't care. Like, I don't
Mhm.
care. Like whatever. Um, but when it comes to everybody else, I'm constantly needing that affirmation.
Is that because a romantic relationship feels I got this in the bag? So that's kind of taken care of. And then the other people who are less in need of you, or it's not as clear the need that they have for you. Whereas in a romantic relationship, there's an apparent need that the other person must have for.
I can't say for sure, but like that's kind of what how I view it though, is that it's like, okay, this person has committed themselves to me. We're dating. I can see their need for me. I am not as confident about basically everybody else in my life. Not saying that's a good thing, but like, yeah.
Can I ask you a question? Does that mean that you often are in romantic relationships so you have one secure foundation of a person that sort of tethers you? Or are you okay not being in a relationship? Or if you're not, are you looking because you need to feel needed?
So for like years, I was just like not in a relationship. I didn't really feel the need to be in. And I've always found myself to be a person that is kind of like, it's like, yeah, who cares about a relationship? But I also realized that during that time that I've always been fixated on somebody in terms of pursuing a romantic relationship. Like basically constantly. I can't think of a time in my life where like I either wasn't in a relationship or pursuing somebody. So I like it's something I'm actually asking myself a lot nowadays is I'm not really sure. Um, I know that my self-esteem needs don't really get met by my like romantic
Mhm.
relationships, but I do see that I am constantly seeking them out. So it's really hard to say.
Mhm.
So I guess I'll tell my story of like the first time I was ever in a relationship. Was when I do think this did actually paint how I viewed relationships moving onwards from here. Is that like so? Let's go back to when I was like in middle school, and I was like a recluse. I was very awkward. I very very insecure. I mean, I had my grandiosity definitely was still there, but it was I would be the stereotype of a fucking vulnerable narcissist at that point, I guess is
Mhm.
what I would say. I like getting into a relationship didn't even occur to me because it felt so just unrealistic. And I remember, and so like I entered high school, and there's this girl that I knew in middle school who like admitted to like having feelings for me, but she was in a relationship,
Mhm.
and she was basically saying, "I want to leave this guy, but he says he's going to kill himself." He's being nuts. And that went on for a few months until she was like, one day she basically chose him over me. And I fixated on that for like a year. I was like devastated. Um, and I like couldn't like let her go until I cut my hair. So it wasn't like long anymore. I started wearing different clothes, and she and that guy broke up, and me and her started talking again. And like we dated for like 5 months, give or take. That was my longest relationship for a little bit there. But within a month, I kind of realized, oh, I didn't actually have feelings for her. I just wanted to prove myself that like I could have her, which was one hell of a realization to have.
Mhm. You had that realization at the time after like a month with her? Is that what you said?
More or less, yeah.
Okay.
It was interesting because I actually felt a lot of shame or guilt. I'm not sure which, about the fact that I didn't want to be with her because I just realized that I just want to know I could like after I took her virginity, I was like done. I was like I don't want to be in this relationship. And then I broke up with her right before prom, which probably wasn't great. Um, God
But
damn it.
even after you knew that you didn't really, you just wanted to like the conquest aspect, you still stayed with her for like another 4 months.
Yeah, I had no idea how to like,
Hmm.
it's still an issue I have nowadays is that like I have a huge problem with breaking up with somebody. Like I want to break up with somebody and like I can't look somebody in the eyes and just tell them I don't want to be with them anymore. I'm still figuring out why that is. I think it's like the shame aspect of like having to deal with somebody's emotions in those moments. But yeah, I stayed with her for that long just because I didn't know how to fucking end it.
Hmm.
Um, and that's been reflective of a lot of my relationships of where I'll get with somebody and then I'll just kind of be like, I want to leave, not know how to, and just kind of stay or like push them away with like
Hmm.
my anger or with like just being just kind of a shitty guy in general or dismissive. Like and I would say in this relationship I'm having, I haven't had that urge. I think that first relationship really did paint how the rest of mine have gone. But I would say the biggest difference is that like I don't have that overwhelming need to just leave like I usually do.
Do you have any thoughts on why you don't have that this time? And
Yeah, I'm afraid of them because I'm afraid that like part of it is because when I don't feel secure in a relationship, I cling on a lot harder. And I'm terrified that's the reason, but I'm hoping not.
mm,
That you're actually feeling insecure in this relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
what
saying that is the reason, but that is the reason that I suspect and that I'm hoping isn't the case.
Mhm.
We probably fight more than most couples do, in fairness. And part of it may be the fact that like she compared to most people is a lot more willing to like not back down when I start being like domineering. When I'm being domineering, it's like she's not nearly as willing to back down from that, which ugh, I gotta think about that too now. Fuck. But yeah, like I think the fact that like I feel like I'm not completely in control of a relationship is what kind of leads me to be like, oh, I don't feel completely secure. And that makes me not want to leave because I only want to leave when I do feel completely secure in that leg. I've kind of proven the points, so to speak. Um,
Mm.
Again, that's just a hypothesis of mine. I'm hoping that's not the case.
are you afraid of the possibility of if you do feel completely secure that you're just going to repeat history?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Because you know how I used to be engaged. Um,
No, I don't. Used to be engaged.
yeah. And it was very short lived. However, I intentionally put distance between me and her so that I wouldn't feel secure because I was afraid of repeating that pattern.
Wow.
And because of that, she broke up with me, um, which sucked. But I still got that feeling of, oh, I need to get out of this relationship. And I intentionally sabotaged it. It was, and I regretted it almost immediately, but it did happen.
Mm.
I was just going to say security is like dangerous.
It feels like a cage.
Yeah.
But it also feels like when there is security, the conquest is complete.
Yeah. I mean, it's like what else is there at this
Yeah.
point? It's
That,
that this feeling I always have of like I need to reach that next level. And when I'm in a secure relationship, it's like, what else is there now?
yeah. Well, I was just going to ask before that like, so what there is after that is, something else on some different level. Like if the relationship is for, um, just for conquest, then obviously it has an end. It's like it's finite basically, unless the person continues to like keep you in an insecure state, which that's not a really fulfilling relationship either, right? So like
Right.
the other like some other level of some a different kind of purpose almost to a relationship. Does that feel very like alien to you or kind of foreign, or you don't kind of don't know what that feels like? Yeah, okay.
It
Uh,
like I literally got into, I wouldn't say a fight, but like a debate with my therapist like a few years back. I was trying to explain this. I remember her saying that like the purpose of relationships like feel safe and like secure and stuff, et cetera, et cetera. And I couldn't wrap my mind around it at the time.
mm,
And I think that that actually might be another good example of probably where I've come a little bit farther because I do crave that nowadays. But like I was like, I don't get it. Like I feeling safe is like feeling stagnant. I hate this idea of just staying still and shit.
mhm. Have you felt in a relationship with anybody that like kind of the purpose of the relationship went beyond that? Somehow there was some kind of connection or emotional.
I mean, with Evie, it's been so much. It's been way closer to that, I will say.
Mm,
Other than her, though, I can't think of anybody though.
mm, okay.
But anyways,
Okay, cool.
yeah, nice meeting you, dude. Though,
Very nice to meet you. Thank you so much.
To be continued.
of course, yes.
Yes. Okay,
Okay.
bye.
Pick up.
All right, catch you guys.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.